Good morning. We are coming to you live from a box truck in Greenville, North Kakalaka. It's a beautiful October 3rd, 2019 here. Got a lot of things to talk about today. The world is abuzz about Stefon Diggs missing practice yesterday. I'm very confused by it all, but boy, do I enjoy chatting about the Minnesota Vikings circumstances. Stephen Gostkowski was put on IR, one of the all-time greats for the brand, one of the greatest kickers to ever kick a ball, is now on IR, late in his career with a hip injury. We'll be excited to see how he bounces back from that. And also, who's going to fill his role up there in New England? It's been Adam Vinatieri, then Stephen Gostkowski. Will it be Young Ho Koo? Is that his name?
Yep.
We're going to find out. I didn't know if that was his name or not. Also, in about 5 minutes, we have a conversation with a congressman, a man that I showered with in the past, a man who is trying to push through a legislation that is called Fair Pay to Play Act through the House. Is that accurate? Am I getting it right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, Anthony Gonzales will be calling in, trying to piggyback off of the California Governor Newsom's ruling about players being able to utilize their likeness to make money away from the collegiate football field. Excited to talk to him about that. Excited to chat with you about everything that's going on in the world. Our phones don't work in a box truck. We're not even sure if we're live currently. Use hashtag Pat McAfee Show Live to get your questions in. Let's have the greatest Thursday in the history of Thursdays. Evan Foxy, play some Chase Rice.
It's the perfect occasion for a little vacation from the heart of the nation. Not a young medication, 2 hours of magic. Let's give it a go. Ladies and gents, it's the Pat McAfee Show. It's the Pat McAfee Show. It's the Pat McAfee Show.
Yes, it is Chase Rice, who is currently on tour. If he's in your city, go check him out. He puts on a hell of a show. Joining me in this truck to hopefully put on a hell of a show as well is at Frank Moraldo. How's it going, Frankie?
Doing great. Nice little couch setup. Got me a mic stand. Can't complain.
Yeah, there has been some upgrades to the box truck over the last week or so. Tech-wise, nothing really has been upgraded. Actually been more confusing. At Viva La Zito is pushing some buttons back there in the corner, arbitrarily doing stuff. How are you doing, Zito?
Doing very well. I like my new mic stand as well.
Look at you. And you also sound great in the microphone. I'm happy that's a little bit of an upgrade because normally it sounds like you're coming from about 10 feet away from a microphone. Adam Foxy, you look fantastic.
Thank you, sir.
Michigan State's been getting buried on this show at a very regular basis recently, and you don't deserve that.
A lot of bad quarterbacks right now. Backup quarterback use, some would say. Drew Stanton, Brian Hoyer, and I think you believe Kirk Cousins.
He's a backup quarterback.
Yes.
But he's not getting paid that way. And at Ty Schmidt back there, rolling on about an hour and a half worth of sleep, loving his absolute life right now. Big smile on his face. Technology's fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know how much I'm going to be talking today because I want to let a couple F-bombs fly, and I don't think that works on the radio. So I might just sit back and enjoy the show.
Ty went on a diatribe about our life behind the scenes on today's podcast, where we also set up a For the Brand challenge that'll be happening this evening on the field at East Carolina before the Thursday night football game of Temple at ECU, where one of the video humans for the Temple football team will attempt to punt a ball 30 yards. If he does, I'll donate $10,000 to a charity of his choice. If not, he has to do something embarrassing. It's worth a listen. Also, I'm intrigued by this Minnesota Vikings situation because what just started as Adam Thielen with a raw emotional response about their offense and offenses in general in the sport of football, where he says you have to be able to throw the ball, you just can't run the ball. And then what turned into Mike Zimmer saying, yeah, he's got to pull the trigger, we need him to do better, has now become a guy missing practice for non-injury reasons, whatever that means. By the way, I don't know what that means. Does that mean he's sick? No, because they would say illness. Does that mean that somebody in his family passed away? We hope not. Does it mean that something's going on? We hope not. But what it sure looks like is that Stefon Diggs said, listen, the guy can't complete a pass in practice either. I might as well just stay home. We're going to catch the same amount of balls. That's basically what Stefon Diggs. The world is crumbling in on Kirk Cousins right now, and I don't know if I love it or hate it, to be honest with you. I like to see people succeed. I like to see good things happen to people, but it feels like this Kirk Cousins situation is going to be a tough one to turn around, especially now that people are missing practices. I never in my life, ever, would have thought about just skipping a practice. Granted, I don't have the Minneapolis Miracle catch on my record. Granted, I don't have the commercial saying I can catch everything. I don't have his contract, and I don't currently play in the era that it is currently. But never in my life would I think about missing a practice. Like, that is just not something that you can be who you can afford to be. I was not a human that could afford to miss practice and just be like, yep, that's how we're doing it. Yeah.
Even when you were at odds with the GM, you never woke up one day and you know what? F it. I don't want to go in today.
You know what? I kind of wish I would have. It's a lot more of a savage situation, but I think my dad would have slapped me. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the thing here is I think we're living in a world where there's a lot of leverage by the players, which I respect and appreciate. And speaking of leverage by the players, we'll be talking to Gonzo here in a few minutes about the leverage of NCAA players. But the thought of just skipping practice is never something I thought of. The thought of just missing work was never something I thought of. But if Stephon Diggs thinks that he can get something done with this holdout, it's like whenever you like have a sit-in or whatever the hell they call it. Is it a sit-in? That's what they call it. Whenever people like protest or whatever.
Yeah, you could do a sit-in. You could do a lay-in. People lay on the ground sometimes.
I just never would have imagined just missing work. But, I mean, if something ends up good for Stephon Diggs, good, more power to him. Speaking of wide receivers in the NFL that have power and the chance to really make some solid change instead of negative change and not just drama but real-life things. Ladies and gentlemen, former teammate of mine, former all Big Ten performer, former first-round draft pick, and now a member of our Congress. Is that accurate, Nick?
Yeah, it is.
From the state of Ohio, Mr. Anthony Gonzales. Anthony!
What's going on? How are you?
Hey, I'm great, man. How are you? What are you? You're over there in Washington, D.C. right now, shaking hands, kissing babies. What's going on over there?
I am happily in Ohio right now, running around the district, seeing folks and catching up on everything back home. So it's a good week.
Okay, so when I was teammates with you, I think everybody would say this guy has his stuff together more than everybody else. You got your MBA from Stanford after leaving the NFL. While you were in the NFL, you were always thinking deeper. You're always a smart brain in the locker room and for the NFL. Now you've taken your talents into the House of Representatives. And yesterday you made some news because you are looking to push through the Fair Pay to Play Act, basically double downing on Governor Newsom's move in California for NCAA athletes to make money away from the field. How did this all come to be? And I think you're the absolute perfect human to make this happen if anybody in the history of government was going to be able to make it happen.
Well, first off, thank you for that. So, you know, my kind of perspective on this is I think you have to start with the question, number one, do you believe that college athletes should be able to capitalize on name, image, and likeness? And I am a firm yes on that, and I have been for a long time, not just for college football and basketball, but college swimming and field hockey. There's ways that folks can leverage their name to just get a couple dollars for spending money. I mean, you know, you were a college athlete. You know,
Yep.
It's not like you have a lot of money running around. And so I'm a yes on that. And then I think the second question is, how do you do it? And that's maybe more important or as important. And I think what California got right is the general principle. What they got wrong is, one, it's a state law, and so you don't want a system where you have athletes saying, well, I'll just play in California, not because I want to be there or not because I like the school, but because I can do this. So I think you need a national standard, which is what I'm trying to put in place. And again, I think you do need some guardrails, and to be determined on what that looks like. I'm working with my current athletic director, Gene Smith, on what that would look like, as well as some other folks, because I think you could see where this would get abused quickly, and I think you want to make sure that doesn't happen as well.
So Mark Emmert is the guy that's ultimately going to be a focal point of all these discussions. How do you think the NCAA is going to react to this situation, and have you taken that into account, or right now are you just trying to be active so we can keep it in the public eye so there's a chance we can move forward with legislation, or how far along in the process are you in this whole thing?
So my goal is to find a piece of legislation that gets broad-based support that would include, hopefully, the NCAA, because the reality is with the California law, that will become law of the land in 2023, I think it is, and so they have to react in some way. But again, I think the goal should be to find something that has broad support. I do not believe the goal should be, screw the NCAA, let's put them out of business, let's get rid of that. I do not think that's what the right goal here. I think the right goal should be how do we provide a benefit to the players that I think they deserve in a way that preserves a lot of the existing structure? Because I do think that college sports and college athletics is an incredibly valuable thing for the athlete. It was one of the best experiences of my life. But again, I also think that there is a way to allow athletes to make a little bit of money for themselves while they're doing great work for the university. And so that's kind of the goal that I have, and I'm working with the different constituencies to try to find that happy medium, if you will, that kind of gives everybody enough of what they want. And in terms of where we are in the process, we are still early in that process. We're waiting for Gene Smith, who's the Ohio State Athletic Director. He's working on a proposal that he's going to put forward, and then we're going to kind of compare notes and go from there.
So it's so interesting because I think everybody who has ever played in a sport that has made money and saw, for instance, I was at West Virginia. I watched Pat White, Steve Slayton completely flip around West Virginia University. Whenever I was there at the beginning, our freshman year had 0 bowl wins. The university reflected that. And then after we start winning some games, we get the entire university gets flipped. There's new buildings being built. There's new infrastructure coming to Morgantown. The stadium gets flipped over. People are making millions and millions of dollars all around Pat White and Steve Slayton, who ultimately never got to the massive paydays in the NFL. So that's why I've always been a huge advocate for this potential opportunity for players to make money just in a little bit. I mean, there is a lot of cash to go around. I think the players should see it. The old heads will always say, though, free education's enough. How are you going to pay people? How are you going to do this? This image and likeness thing is an interesting thing because it's not the school having to deal with it who say that they never make any money, even though they build $500 million buildings to say that they're not a profit school and all this stuff. That's okay with me, and I understand the stats say that most athletic organizations don't make cash, but the image and likeness thing is an interesting way around that because it's like, hey, if their names can make money, they should be allowed to do that. Now, I read Pro Football Talk. Mike Florio wrote about this morning. He said, how do they think they're going to be able to contain or handle the no-show appearances and they're just getting paid by big-time boosters? Have you thought about that, the naysayers to this potential setup? There's always going to be haters and people that want to drag it down, especially in a system that has worked for a long time and made a lot of money for people. Any change is going to be met with a little bit of confrontation. Have you thought about the how you're going to regulate the off-the-field money and how it isn't just going to turn into a big boosters just paying kids to do nothing, really?
Yeah, so that's where I think what I keep saying is, look, the goal shouldn't be to get something done quickly. The goal should be to get it right, and that's why I'm trying to take my time and be a little bit more thoughtful and wait for the proposals that are going to come out. And like I said, Gene Smith at Ohio State is working on this right now. I trust Gene. I know Gene. I love Gene as a friend, but also just as somebody who's been working in this industry for a long time. And so I trust that will be thoughtfully prescribed because you're right, and that's why I said there need to be appropriate guardrails to make sure it just doesn't get abused. But I always go back to the fundamental question, which is, do you believe that an individual should be able to capitalize on their own name, image, and likeness, not somebody else's, their own? You know, Pat White was born Pat White, and when he was at West Virginia, should he have been able to go to a pizza shop and sign autographs or something like that? I would argue the answer is yes. And so how do you go from where we are today to that world and do so in a way that doesn't undermine the entire system? Because, I do not think that would be the right outcome for college athletics. And so that's what we're considering, and that's the balance we're trying to strike. Admittedly, it is very difficult, but I think if we're thoughtful and we're talking to all the right people and we're weighing these concerns, I do think we can get this right.
Okay, I have an interesting question because the thought of capitalism seems to be a little bit more of a thing that leans right in the Republican world, which is what you are proposing here with the image and likeness. But it took a Democratic governor to really push this type of thing through because of the thought of being treated fairly. This is the both sides of the aisle here working together, which is not normal in Washington, D.C. Is this something that you think your younger brand of politics is going to be able to do moving forward?
So I think this is one of those issues that appeals to people on a couple different grounds on both sides of the aisle, and that gives it a chance, right? So you're right. On the conservative side, on the more Republican side, we see something like this, I think, and I'll speak for myself, I'm not speaking for the whole party, and you say, wow, that doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't you be able to do that? That seems like a logical thing there. And so you garner support there for sure. And then there's also what you see on the Democrat side a lot of is, hey, look, we're talking about folks from really difficult backgrounds, often minorities, who are being denied this opportunity to capitalize on their own name, image, and likeness. That does not feel fair. And so, how do we move forward? And so I think you're going to see, I hope what you'll see is some bipartisan commentary on that and collaboration. And that, again, that's what I'm working on. So, like, constructing a bill is one thing, and that is difficult. But then building the coalitions around it is really where the current job I have gets very challenging. And so that's kind of what we're putting in place from a plan of action and how we're going to ultimately try to bring this to the market.
Gonzo, when I say this, I mean this. I've always said that if we could take a piece of the NFL locker room and move it to society, the world would be a better place. You are a Cuban American in the locker room. There's people from Compton. There's people from the most uppity parts of America. Everybody's coming together for the same goal. Washington, D.C., for far too long has just been, as an outsider's perspective, as a place that we're on this side, you're on that side, we're not going to work together. The fact that you're already moving with some legislation in an attempt to bring people together, I think is a beautiful thing, and I can't wait to see you be president one day, Mr. Gonzo.
I think my wife would kill me, but yeah. No, but I really appreciate what you said there on the locker room, because I think that's underrated. I completely agree. I think one of the most healthy environments I've ever been in my life is an NFL locker room for exactly what you said. People come from literally everywhere in this country, and you love each other, you work together, you work your butt off, and you chase really fun, exciting goals together. We need to get back to that as a country. We could use that in society broadly today. I agree with you 100%.
Oh, man. Hey, I don't live in Ohio, so I can't vote for you. But if I did, I would, and I'm very thankful for you, Gonzo. You have an incredibly busy schedule. You sent me your daily schedule over. Good luck. I think it's only going to get worse whenever this legislation for Fair Pay-to-Play Act happens. You're the right guy to do it. I hope we can see it happen. And myself and all the other athletes that have ever got a chance to meet you and watch you, very proud of you, and good luck with everything, man.
Thanks, brother. Good being with you.
Hey, cheers, man. All right. Okay. Who's at a house, a rep? What is he, a state representative?
Yep.
He gave us a tour around the Capitol or whatever. We're walking through, like, Nancy Pelosi's office, the whole thing. I was like, oh, my God. Just like 5-6 years ago, this guy and I were showering together. You know what I mean? What's that? Your microphone's off, Foxy. There's no chance we could hear you. What'd you say?
We didn't deserve to be there.
No, we did not. I had a sleeveless hoodie on walking through the Capitol building while they're giving tours to these people. And Gonzo literally has maintained the same human he was in the locker room somehow. When you would think this type of stuff would change him or anything like that, it has not at all. And I would like to see both sides of the aisle come together on a lot more things than just this. But if this is the thing that rallies the troops in Washington and stops the gridlock, more power to Gonzo, more power to America, and more power to the players. I think he's got a long road, man. That's going to be tough. There's a lot of money out there. I don't know how it's going to go, but I'm pulling hard for him. We got to get to a break. You're listening to the Pat McAfee Show.
There's only one, ain't no replacement. It's just so incredible. Gotta have it, can't let it go. And it's in time, on schedule. It's just so incredible.
Does this work? Does this work?
Incredible. Gotta have it, can't let it go.
Hello, hello, hello. Did it work? Hello, we are back from the box truck in Greenville, North Carolina. Just had an incredible conversation with Anthony Gonzales. I have no idea if you heard it or not because our audio is absolute trash. It's a joke. It's a joke. Every single time we come into this box truck, it's a complete question mark on whether or not we're going to get on the air, whether or not anything's going to work. And this is just our life now. You know the movie Phenomenon where John Travolta has that brain tumor and he starts doing like incredible things? Your mic's not on. And the guy with, he can move stuff with his mind, the whole thing. He breaks out of the hospital. And then there's that dude, Forrest Whitaker, where he runs that radio show out of his room in the middle of nowhere. That thing has a better audio setup than our show.
Oh, hands down.
What Forrest Whitaker was using in the movie Phenomenon is a better setup than what we have on a daily basis.
Just a homemade ham radio in the garage?
I would rather we do that. I would almost rather I just use my iPhone or any other phone that wants to pay me to use it. I've been dumping a lot of money into Steve Jobs and Tim Cook's operation for a long time. I'd rather just call into a radio station and do it every day because then we'll at least know that we're through. And if we don't have service, then at least I'll know that things sound terribly or they don't sound good. Because I'm doing these conversations with people. I think they're incredible. I'm taking Anthony Gonzales' time. He's literally a working government official who has 45 things on his schedule. I asked him to make some time to come in and talk, and because of our ass clown setup, we have no idea if people could even hear it. Then we go into music, and it sounds as if somebody's scratching the music, and it's not even loud. I'm not a complainer. I'm really not. I try to make the most of every opportunity, but it's at the point where this is an absolute joke.
I'm being told that the interview did sound good. So.
I just talked to my lady, my mom, and my dad, and they said it was very soft. So the people who are telling you that are the same people that set up this jackass setup that we have currently.
Probably true.
Whenever we were an independent operation, we were able to get up off the ground from anywhere. Literally in the middle of a field in the middle of Indianapolis Motor Speedway, we were able to get off the ground, do a live show for a couple 100,000 people watching, and there was a hurricane happening while it was happening. How are these corporations that have invested a lot of money in us and made a lot of money through the years not able to set up a show on a weekly basis when there's a satellite truck outside that is worth a couple $1 million. Maybe we should just go live from that satellite truck that is directly next to this box truck. This is a joke. And now I got Anthony Gonzales' schedule messed up probably. He's probably going to miss a handshaking session that might win him another election that could probably put some good things through. All right, anyways. I'm going to pull a Stephon Diggs tomorrow. I'm just not going to show up. It's not going to show up. Dan Patrick, Rich Eisen, all these people that have daily national sports shows, Dan Lebitard, all these people that I'm friends with and look up to and enjoy their content. They just show up at the studio, know it's going to work, put on the headphones. They absolutely know their phones are going to work.
You are like Stephon Diggs in this situation. You can run all the routes you want. You can get as open as you want. But if the ball ain't getting there, it's not doing anyone any good.
I don't want to complain. I hate complaining because we live in a society full of complainers. And Tim McAfee would slap me in the face if I was complaining. But it's at the point where I'm starting to expect a little bit more from people that are investing a lot of money. I'm running my ass off all around this country with these boys, getting 0 hours of sleep, and you are helping us out none. I just want to let you know that. This might be our last day on radio, to be honest. I am 100% okay with that. I am tired of dealing with it. I am tired of dealing with it, especially with this Gonzales situation where that was a very, very intriguing conversation, and now people could barely hear. They had to turn up their dials on their phone or on the radio, and then when I talk, it sounds like I'm blowing out their speakers. I'm already loud and enough to begin with. We don't need people dialing with their thing to hear the interview. Let's go to another break. I'm going to go take a walk around this box truck. It's 400 degrees here in Greenville, but the people are nice. We got a teacher who skipped school tailgating outside right now. He's a good guy. Tilly Nation. I appreciate him. I'm going to go hope he cheers me up. Probably go to the bathroom. And maybe we'll figure this out on the other side. My microphone didn't work, I guess. I got to move to another mic. I don't know how many more mics we got in this place. It's a great Thursday, October 3rd, 2019. You're listening to the Pat McAfee Show.
Tweeted after the fight, nice, with the thumbs up emoji, a comeback win, now fight a real fighter, win a belt, and I'll consider doing a third fight, hashtag Canelo is your boss.
He talks so much.
Right now, he's moving on with his life and fighting the best middleweight in the world available to him.
This is not game. This is a real fight.
Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show here in Greenville, North Carolina, broadcasted worldwide on DAZN. Also, our YouTube channel. Shout out to yous watching along. Big-time Triple G fight this weekend on DAZN. He's a man who, I guess, puts on boxing gloves and beats the hell out of other men. That'll happen Saturday night from Madison Square Garden. We'll be there. That's awesome. Went on a little bit of a rant there because music didn't work going into the break. I was told Gonzo was a little soft by a couple people. Turns out that wasn't accurate. I mean, it just never ends. Just never, ever ends. Happy I got that out. Apologize you had to hear that. Let's get to somebody who could potentially be complaining. It's a man that went to IR, Stephen Gostkowski. When I talk about Stephen Gostkowski, I'm talking about a player for the New England Patriots that I'm probably supposed to hate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows that you're supposed to hate New England Patriots players. He's a guy who has won a lot of games for them. He's their all-time leading scorer. He has an overall 87% field goal make percentage, which is number 4 all-time, by the way, just for future reference.
Nothing to sneeze at.
Nothing to sneeze at. But whenever you get a chance to meet Stephen Gostkowski in pregame and you get a chance to chat with him a little bit, he's just a good dude, classic dude, who kicks the hell out of a football. And then whenever he started having these troubles these last couple of years, right? And I have not heard this from Gostkowski. He and I don't have a relationship like that. We don't, he wouldn't tell me anything. Also because he's from New England, so he's not going to tell anybody anything about anything.
Mm-hmm.
But after watching him kick a little bit over the years, there's a little couple things that just didn't make sense to me. The ball was just kind of, every once in a while out of nowhere, the ball would spray. He used to be a guy that hit the ball right down the middle, hit it as hard as hell, perfect end-over-end rotation. He was a incredible kicker. Then every once in a while, ball would just stray. You know, I started thinking to myself, like, well, that just doesn't come out of nowhere. You know, that's just not going to happen. If he starts hitting one and it just sprays and then another one goes, it's not like that's a trend. It's not like he lost his swing.
You wouldn't call it the yips, right? Because that's
Yes.
more consistently failing.
Exactly, because he's still hitting great balls, and every once in a while there's one that just goes. In these last couple weeks, it's been like one a game where the ball goes, but then he'll make a couple, right? So in my eyes, I always thought it was something that was kind of nagging at him. I always thought it was an injury that was potentially stabbing him. It was like a stabbing pain that came out of nowhere that kind of makes you like kind of, it gives you, it gives you a little thing. Then it came out that he's out because of his hip. He's going to get surgery on his hip, I believe. He's going to be on IR. They just said they're going to sign Mike Nugent, by the way, which out of the names that they worked out, I assume Mike Nugent was the only name that would have fit in with the Patriots. Kai Forbath, I think he's kind of been hit or miss his entire career, but you look him in the eyes, it doesn't seem like he's a guy that's going to be able to show up in those big situations. I mean, Patriots playing big games every single weekend. Every single weekend is a Super Bowl whenever you play the New England Patriots or play for the New England Patriots. It's the biggest game of the other person's schedule. So you got to have somebody with good veteran experience who's been good. Mike Nugent, by the way, Mike Nugent, very good kicker.
Yeah.
Just like most kickers, though, he kind of comes to a tail end of his career. He kind of loses a spot. Then he doesn't get in anywhere else. You kind of got to get in where you fit in. Now he has an opportunity with New England to win some games and maybe potentially win a Super Bowl. Good for Mike Nugent if he can figure it out. It's not always easy to find a replacement, by the way. Sean Sweesham was the kicker for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and in the Hall of Fame game, he attempted to make a tackle, tore his ACL. Hall of Fame game, preseason game, before preseason games begin. Game that means absolutely nothing. Sweesham attempted to make a tackle. Honorable, absolutely honorable. Tore his ACL.
He's a gamer, man.
He was a
You
good.
can't knock him for that.
I can. Let me tell you why. Whenever I was younger in my career, I was punting against some team in preseason. Like third or fourth quarter preseason game. My job was pretty secure at this point. But for punters, whenever it's a numbers game, especially back whenever they had 3 different cuts and you had to get your rosters down to certain numbers, they didn't carry backup punters. So preseason for me was not only a nightmare, but it was a situation for me to get better, get my rhythm back in the first couple games. And in the last 2 games, it was just like, all right, don't die out here. And I got that feeling because one particular preseason game, I punted it, and this kid got this big return. I probably had 4 or 5 guys on the team that are working at McDonald's right now that are blocking for me. had a couple guys that are probably in the Arena League maybe blocking for me. Nobody that was ever going to make the NFL was blocking for me, which was always a fear of mine. But it's like, hey, let's give you all these guys have the chance to make it if they make a big play. Somebody goes down and blows somebody up on a punt team, like they potentially make a team, they potentially make a living. Not normally the case. Normally, anybody that's in the third or fourth quarter of a fourth preseason game probably not going to make it. I mean, that's unless some wild thing happens. So as the punter with no backup and not a chance to just have somebody else go in there and potentially get killed, it's just you punting back there. So it becomes a very scary thing because you don't even know the people's names normally blocking for you. You have no idea if this person has any discipline at all. You have no clue if this person wants to block on the punt team. And also, these people playing on the punt team, since your defensive starters aren't playing, they're playing all the reps on defense, too. So these guys are getting like 100 reps in a game, and they're not good football players. I mean, they're good football players in the sense of your backyard football game. But when it comes to NFL players, they're not good football players. But the only thing is, like, on the other side, it's the same type of people, right? So at least it's bad on bad, right? So as a punter, it's scary as hell. So there's this one game, I punt the ball. It goes, this dude gets this big, long return. He takes it to the field to get behind the wall. And I'm, like, kind of trailing the play a little bit. And I turn around, and it was one of those looping blockers. The guy went for the block, and then he kind of hung behind the play, and then he was looping around. And as soon as I turned to go tackle this guy, like right at the middle of the field, he drops his shoulder right into the middle of my chest. Gave me one of those, you know, whenever you lose.
The worst.
That one right there.
Terrible feeling.
Just want to let it be known, I did not drop to the ground. Okay? This guy got a 35-yard run-up, dropped his shoulder and head right into my chest. I did not drop to the ground, but I was stopped in my tracks. Stopped in my tracks. Like, completely, as soon as it happened, I knew I lost my breath. I'm, like, kind of hunched over like an old man in the middle of the field. Somebody makes the tackle. So I walked to the sideline. Jim Caldwell's like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, right? I'm doing the whole thing. Because that thing, it's hard.
Yeah, you can't talk.
You think you're dead, by the way. You think you're potentially dying, and you're never going to breathe again when that happens, when you lose your breath. So I'm like, and they're like, "All right, go sit down." And, like, literally just like, "Come on, go sit down." And we had this defensive line coach. His name was John Thielen. Legendary man. Created this term, rushman, which is what Robert Mathis, Dwight Freeney, a lot of guys, a lot of success. He's just this OG defensive end, defensive line coach. Could put down 50 beers in one night if he had to, and usually did. Just talking about a legendary man. He was about 400 pounds. He was in a golf cart. Didn't walk much. If he walked, people had to, like, kind of help him out. Then he would take a knee. Just the most football guy in the history of football guys. I'm sitting on the bench on the defensive side because the defense is on the field trying to stop after the big return. And he has two people come help him over to sit next to me. And this is not normal that he comes over to the bench. He sits down next to me on the bench, and he's like, "Oh, did that hurt?" And I'm like, I'm still trying to catch my breath, you know. And he's like, "Good. That's what you deserve." And then as he was talking to me, they scored a touchdown. And he's like, "You see what they just did? They scored a touchdown. Look around, Pat. Look how many people care. Nobody." Nobody cares, Pat. And you know what? They're probably going to score again. Who cares? This game means nothing. And what happened to you? And I was like, exactly. In pregame or in preseason games, you kick the ball and you get the hell off of the field. You hear me? And I was like, and then he was like, come. He had two people come help him up, and he just walks away. And it was a moment that I'll never forget. And if you watch me in preseason games after that, I catch that snap, and I don't even take steps. I just throw that thing down, I punt it, and then you just see me kind of just walk towards the Colts sideline. Sean Sweesham should have done that.
Yeah.
Sean Sweesham should have had that moment where he and had John Thielen tell him not to do it because he tore his ACL. And what the Steelers had to go through finding a new kicker with a team that was good was tough. They brought in Josh Scobie. Josh Scobie somehow forgot how to kick.
Great golfer, though.
Great golfer. Incredible golfer. Good dude. But when he got to the Steelers, I think he would even say he forgot how to kick. Something happened where he had this incredible career with the Jaguars, and he was bad there. They ended up landing on Boswell, who it was incredible for them, but it took them a while to get to Boswell. The Patriots are a really good team, so I think they can deal with having a couple flaws or flubs, even with a known kicker. But having a good kicker is vital, and I mean this, vital to your success in the NFL, because it doesn't matter until it matters. It's not a point of emphasis until that point is literally the only thing that is emphasized in the entire game. The little things only catch up to you whenever the big things are on the line. And when it comes to a kicker, that is something that can get you. So if Mike Nugent hasn't been in the league for a couple years here, makes the team, and he's forgotten how to kick like Scobie did when he gets to Pittsburgh. Yeah. And the Patriots are in a tight game. And it's maybe like the Miami Miracle type situation. You need a kick. This is a tough thing, and I think a lot of Patriots fans. Now, granted, Nugent can come in there and have a perfect season and go win the Super Bowl. All these things are very valuable, especially with how their operation is, how diligent the Patriots are on special teams and everything like that. I would assume Bill Belichick's big brain will be able to tell if Nugent has it or not. But that is a massive role to a team, and if Gostkowski, who's one of the greatest, is out, you have to hope that the person that comes in can hold the torch a little bit.
So I think you just answered my question, but is there added pressure then, like if you're going to kick for the Patriots, knowing that, like, okay, like this isn't, we're going to be in games. I'm going to have some kicks to potentially win games or,
Every game matters, and this is why I think Vinatieri is the GOAT. And this is, now granted, he is the GOAT because he's the all-time leading scorer. He has some of the biggest plays in NFL history as a kicker. These are big things. But, for instance, Jason Hansen played for a long time in Detroit.
Right.
Not a single game mattered. Not a single one mattered.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't make the playoffs for 20 years. So and that's not his fault.
No.
He was there. He's a star there. But he knows that if he misses, we're probably going to lose anyways. Right? Vinatieri, every single kick he has had his entire career has mattered. Every single point that he has put up on the board, the most in NFL history, has mattered. It's playoffs on the line. It's the Super Bowl on the line. It's a divisional title. It's this, it's that. Whenever you get and I say this about college kickers too, a lot of small-town college kickers make it in the NFL, and a lot of them don't make it in the NFL because they've only had to kick in front of 25 people. Then whenever you get to the NFL, you got millions of dollars on the line, you got millions of people watching, and kicking is all a head game. It is all in between the ears. A lot of people can kick a ball far. A lot of people can do things with the ball with their feet. But in between the ears, just like a golfer, is where it all comes down to. And when it matters, it matters. And when it doesn't, it don't. And if they buy a ticket, you got to give them show. Jason Hansen, all of his kicks did not matter.
I remember saying that to you. I said he's one of the best lines of my lifetime, and then you really just came back with, well, he didn't have any pressure on him.
Well, he really did. I mean, to perform, yes. To earn a living, yes. That is a pressure in of itself.
For sure.
But when you talk in the grander scheme of being a kicker, Finkel-Einhorn type situation, none of his kicks mattered.
And he was really there when they were terrible.
Terrible.
Not even a playoff team.
Great kicker. He ran like 30 yards for a kickoff, too. Whenever we played him, I had to reenact that so that our team could get a thing. I was winded. The whole thing. I think he was a great kicker.
He was.
But the reason why I don't have him anywhere near my top 5 kickers of all time or whatever is because none of his kicks mattered. Vinatieri, literally since the year he got into the NFL, they went to the Super Bowl his rookie year, all the way through, except for the 2-11 year.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Every single kick has mattered, and that's what separates the good from the great. And Mike Nugent has an opportunity here to get in there and potentially be on a great team, make a good run, which will be the first time in his career that has happened. And I'll be excited to see if he answers from the Ohio State.
And to further your point about the pressure and everything, especially right now with the injuries New England has, and their offense hasn't looked as
Great.
good as we thought it was going to be, mostly due to those injuries. Every point matters twice as much right now because they're going to be in some tight games. Even though their schedule's kind of weak coming up, they need to win these games.
Well, and Mike Nugent knows. He's a vet. He's been around. That's why I didn't think they were going to pick any of those younger guys because that experience comes from those moments and having to live in those moments. Mike Nugent was on a great Ohio State team, so he's been in situations before. But you never know how people are going to react. Aguayo, or whatever his name was.
Yeah.
He was incredible at Florida State. Big games at Florida State. He made a lot of kicks. But then whenever there's millions of dollars on the line, it changes. Something can change in you. That's why you never know if a kicker is going to succeed or not. That's why whenever people draft kickers with second and third round draft picks, everybody's like, oh, this isn't going to pan out, because you really never know. You have no clue if whenever it matters, if the person's going to be able to step up big. And that's why I think you see a lot of college kickers struggle, by the way. Because you got these high school kids that are kicking balls in front of a few hundred people. Or if they're in Texas, I guess it's a few thousand people, but it's still high school football. Then you get put on this national spotlight. You're on national television. You got the entire program riding on your back. You got all this stuff going on, and now you're asked to do a simple task in a very difficult situation. And that can be tough. I struggled with it. I think a lot of college kickers struggle with it. Now, granted, I think college kickers now are a lot worse than they were back whenever I was playing. And I think that's because the stakes of everything have even grown even more. The amount of mounted pressure, especially with social media and everything being focused upon, I think it could be a little bit difficult for them. But the Patriots losing Stephen Gostkowski could potentially be a big deal if Mike Nugent lost it, which we're not sure if he did.
3 of the Patriots' next 6 games are primetime games. 2 of them in New York. A lot of eyes on those games.
That's awesome. But Mike Nugent's been there, you know? Mike Nugent's been there, done that. He was with the Bengals for a while, right?
Yeah, a long time.
The Jets, I believe.
In the Jets. So Mike Nugent's been there, done that. It's just you don't know how he's doing. Just like with Scobie when he went to the Steelers. You don't know how he's doing. You don't know how it's going to go. But a kicker is a position that you need.
But what's Vinny doing different when you got a game winner on the line?
Yeah.
What's he going through?
Great question. So that's what I learned about Adam Vinatieri, by the way.
Right.
What I learned about Adam Vinatieri is why Adam Vinatieri, why he was the greatest of all time. Because whenever it's just first quarter kick, second quarter kick, third quarter kick, practice kick, Vinatieri has the mindset that every kick matters, right? Every kick's a game winner. That's kind of what I learned from him that I didn't take in college. I didn't have that mindset that every kick was a game winner. In practice, I'd show up hungover. I was stupid. I didn't focus on the fine details. For Vinatieri, every kick was a game winner. Then we got to a game winner. And I watched this man become this ice-cold killer, basically. Every time we jog on the field, Vinatieri, super intense person. He's very focused. I would try to keep it light, almost like I'm his caddy, like I'm Bones or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just his caddy, you know, like, hey, let's go ahead, nice easy swing here, old man. Let's aim for that fat guy that's drunk there about 13 rows up, and let's go ahead and knock this through. And he'd go, you got it. And I'd even say before the kick, like, you ready, old man? He'd go, yep. And we'd have this, like, a nice casual conversation, but you could always tell he was dialed in. I just try to keep it light. The first time I jogged out for a game winner with Adam Vinatieri was a magical moment for me to remember, oh, this is why this guy is this guy. I assume Michael Jordan has the same type of thing. I assume the legendary finisher Tom Brady probably has this mindset. That's why you see those fourth quarter drives. They probably become different humans. When we're jogging on the field, when I normally just keep it light, you know, even whenever I punt big situations, I like to be light. Like, I like to, I like to feel good. Nothing's too big. If you make yourself in a situation in practice, you feel like you're there. We're jogging on the field. I'm like, all right, old man. Hey, you put this through. I'm going to celebrate real hard. Like, this is for a game winner. And Vinatieri is not saying nothing, okay? And I, look at him. I thought he didn't hear me. It was a little loud. I'm like, hey, I'd like to celebrate tonight, so let's go ahead and knock this through. And he's, not saying anything. He's not even looking at me, right? He's just walking on the field. I'm like, all right, I guess he can't hear me. So we go sit down, and I'm like, we have a brief conversation. I'm like, I think we just go right down the middle, man. There's not much wind or anything. And he says nothing. I'm like, all right, I'll go to hell.
Normally, would he say something?
Yes. He'd be like, I agree, buddy. He'd be like, sounds good. And then I'd even say, like, hey, I think we're going a foot inside the right up right here because we got a nice hard right to left wind.
Yeah.
There's like a full conversation, right? And he'd be like, okay, you got it. There's a full give and take there. We're a team. We're literally a team out there. And I took that very seriously, that I could, maybe help the GOAT be the GOAT just a little bit more, because I was a former kicker, so I could have been there, done that. Not that I was anywhere near as good as him, but I think he appreciated my mindset coming from a guy who kicked before. Like, hey, if I were you here, I would go right center and just let that thing draw in, and he's like, all right, got it, and that's what we did. So for that game winner, I'm jogging out there, cracking jokes, nothing. He's just literally just marching on the field. Then I get down there, I'm like, I think we're just going right down the middle, bub. You're hitting the ball clean today. Nothing. And I'm like, all right, here we go. And then we get lined up. I count everybody on the line. I'm like, yeah, we're good. Look at the play clock. We get nothing but time. All right. I'm like, you ready, old man? And he says nothing. I'm like, you ready, old man? And I look back, and I'm just looking at the eyes of a stone-cold killer. Just eyes are just straight locked in. I'm like, oh, well, damn, here we go. Sit, bang. He kicks it, and it beautiful ball, obviously. I mean, it goes right down the center, and then he does this fist pump thing. And at that point, I was like, I gave him like a headbutt or whatever, hadn't braked. And then as we're jogging off the field, I'm like, oh, you become a different guy. Whatever. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, oh, I got to go kick off, but we're going to talk about what just happened there. And I come to the sideline, I tell him that whole story. And I think they even caught him on camera, like, laughing or something. They're like, yeah, you should be happy for that game winner. He was laughing because I was telling him, like, yo, you become a serial killer, whatever you And I learned at that moment, that exact moment, I'm like, okay, so that is why Adam Vinatieri is Adam Vinatieri. He has this switch that he was able to – look at that. The picture that is being shown right now is probably after a massive game-winning kick. Look at his face. Look at me.
His eyes.
I am so confused on why he isn't just giving me a little bit of love.
You literally are his caddy.
Yes.
And he's Tiger Woods.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. As a holder, that's exactly what you are. You can make a kick for somebody. You can miss a kick for somebody. I talked about it yesterday. I missed the kick for Vinatieri in Cincinnati. I apologized to him publicly and personally, just like this Kirk Cousins situation with Adam Thielen. But the holder is the caddy. That is 100% it. Never gets talked about. No. Everything's happening in 1.25 seconds from snap to kick, so everything's happening very fast. and you have an opportunity there to either make a kick or miss a kick for somebody, and my job is just to make it as easy as possible so the greatest of all time can step up and do his thing. But I learned quickly that day. I was like, oh. So then, like, the next one we had to go out there was like a game tire or something like that. I didn't even attempt to talk to the guy. Didn't even attempt to talk to him. I was like, all right, we're not friends anymore for like the next 45 seconds, I guess. I'll just shut up and not get in your way here. Because, to be honest, I was probably distracting him on that first one. I'm happy he made it. Because if he misses that, well, McAfee's cracking jokes the whole damn time. Thinks this is some game. This ain't a game, McAfee.
Didn't he used to tell you that he'd, like, black out, too, and not just, like, not remember, like, what you were saying to him or even that you were talking to him?
Yeah, he tells me, whenever I told this story for the first time on a show or whatever, and he told me, like, when he laughed, he heard about it. He was like, I don't recall that at all. And I was like, oh, it's even worse. Like, you don't even remember. But that is why the GOATs are the GOAT. That is why Tom Brady turns into that legendary savage finisher at the end of a game. That is why Michael Jordan gets the ball in his hands. That is why Adam Vinatieri is the guy you want kicking the final second field goal. That is why these people are just different animals. I'd assume there's special forces that are like this. I assume there's different individuals in different
professions.
There it is. Professions that are like this. But Adam Vinatieri is the guy that has it. And now I think Gostkowski was a guy, by the way, that had it. I think he was an incredible kicker for a long time. 3 Super Bowls, 2-time All-Pro. Now they got to hope that Mike Nugent can do the same thing because a lot of eyes are on the Patriots. A lot of expectations are up there. You miss 1 or 2 kicks, there's a lot of eyeballs coming at you, not just from the outside the locker room, but also inside the locker room. Like, hey, we expect something a little different up here. I like Mike Nugent, though. I think he's going to figure it out. I think he's going to do well. But the Patriots saying he'll be ready by 2020 is big. Because they're like, listen, we don't know how this is going to go. We don't know who's coming in here. But Gostkowski's our guy next year. Now, granted, that can all change. Mike Nugent doesn't miss a kick. It's going to be just like the Chase Daniels situation, just like the Kyle Allen situation. Wally Pipp's a real mother trucker. It's a real thing.
I still think that should be called Lou Gehrig. You got Lou Gehrig.
Yeah, we're taking the negative route instead of the positive route. It's 100% right.
Amen, brother.
I got a little negative there earlier in the hour, but we're thankful you stuck with us. We'll be back on the other side. You're listening to the Pat McAfee Show.
It's the perfect occasion for a little vacation from the heart of the nation. Not your medication, 2 hours of magic. Let's give it a go. Ladies and gents, it's the Pat McAfee Show. It's the Pat McAfee Show. It's the Pat McAfee Show.
Yes, it is, Chase Rice. I appreciate you, pal. You are listening to the Pat McAfee Show, whether you're listening to us on the radio across the country or worldwide on the DAZN app. We can't thank you enough for joining us. It is 11:01 on this beautiful October 3rd, 2019. We are in Greenville, North Carolina today for the Temple ECU game tonight that I will be calling. Do I know much about the teams thus far?
Let's go with a hard no.
Not a hard no, because I learned a little bit last night from the Temple football video crew that stopped by the box truck while we were recording the podcast. Got a $10,000 charity kick happening tonight before the game with one of the video guys from Temple. Excited for that operation. Excited for the game. Also tonight, the Los Angeles Rams and Jared Goff, who has been struggling, who just got beat by the Buccaneers, travel up to Seattle for Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. Pete Carroll said this is the best Russell Wilson has looked in his tenure there.
Yep.
That is scary for everybody. Let me tell you why. Russell Wilson, we've said this before, incredibly cliche happy individual. He's a guy, whenever he talks, you think it's coach speak. It's like he's scared to offend anybody at any given time. He seems to do everything right, aside from that new hair that he's rocking that Sierra tried to rock him into. Every time he talks, you think there's no way this guy is this perfect. He's like the Tim Tebow effect. Every time Tim Tebow would talk before, I mean, now he hates capitalism. Everybody knows that.
That's a great point.
I should have asked Anthony Gonzales about Tim Tebow. Next time Gonzo comes. Next time we have a state representative come on this show that is trying to pass legislation, I'm going to ask him about Tim Tebow not being about it. But when Tim Tebow was playing at Florida and whenever he was playing football and Tebow Mania was a real thing, every time he spoke, he said everything right. Bad times, said everything right. Good times, said everything right. Highs, lows, he said everything right. And it's natural for you as a human to go, bull. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very easy to say, this guy.
Especially when he's winning all the time.
It's like, shut up, dude. That's literally what I thought as a guy who was at college in the same exact time as Tim Tebow, on a successful football team at the same exact time as Tim Tebow, at an award show whenever we were told we weren't allowed to have anybody there, and Tebow had like 10 people with him, and then he would go speak, and he said everything right. You're like, shut up. Like, I am done with it. Then you meet Tim Tebow, and you're like, damn, everything... That's real. Like, that is exactly what Tim Tebow
Guy's
is.
pretty genuine.
He walked into Topgolf where we were doing a Wrangler celebrity golf shootout thing for the Super Bowl. He introduced himself to every human at the Topgolf, was incredibly nice to every human, took pictures with everybody that asked, and then he did a 30-minute interview with us where we asked him some dumb questions, and he was just on. Everything he said was just so real. Then he played beer pong with me with water in the cups. He was just the most genuine individual of all time. So I literally was like, oh, I can't believe you're real. Like, I can't believe you are everything that you're cracked up to be.
When he walked in, you were getting changed because you were doing 16 jobs at once, obviously, trying to host, trying to do stuff for the zone. You had your shirt off. You were changing. He walked in. His shirt was so tight because he's so jacked, he may as well had it off. And it was just an instant, like, what do you eat?
Yeah, I had a shirt off. I just got done housing, I think, a quesadilla and some other stuff. And I literally introduced myself to him while shirtless in a public area. And I was like, Mr. Tebow, my name's Pat. Nice to meet you. And he giggles, and he goes, nice to meet you, Pat, or whatever. And now, granted, that was the fourth time I've met him. So I would argue that his only drawback is that he didn't remember meeting me the first 3 times. But it's like, hey, Phil, we've met like 5 times. You know, like that's kind of what it felt like. But other than that, Tim Tebow was everything that you see on TV. And then some, because of how nice he was to everybody that some people would argue was not that important to the entire situation.
Sure.
So now when I listen to Russell Wilson speak, I start to get that same feeling I had with Tim Tebow. Every time he talks, I'm like, get off the shut up, Russell Wilson, okay? Shut up. I'm tired of it. You don't actually feel that way. You don't actually want to say go Hawks at the end of everything. You're kind of stuck in this situation where you started saying it, now everybody expects you to say it. You don't really want the Hawks to go. All you wanted was your money. You're an NFL quarterback. The team imploded around you. Everybody says this, and then all you do is just say the right thing all the time, and I'm like, shut up. I hate you, Russell Wilson. And then you talk to people that have actually been around, and you're like, no, that's him. And it's like, holy hell, how are these humans built this way? How are they some of the most athletic? He could be, everybody knows he could play for the Yankees if he wanted to, Ty.
Yeah, sure.
Ty still feels the way that I feel.
See, you know what's beautiful? It's like with Tebow, like I always did kind of want to, like you do have that general sentiment, but it's like, well, I would still like to meet that guy. With Russell Wilson, I'm fine feeling like this for the rest of my life. I don't want to meet him.
See, that's why Ty's a big-time baseball player, so I think the Russell Wilson training camp thing is worn a little bit thin on.
Yeah, he does it every year, like just taking reps away from some guy who actually could help the team
Oh,
out. Get him the hell out.
What a hero Ty Schmidt is.
Could you imagine if he played for the Yankees, Ty's favorite team, and he had to sit through 162 games of Russell Wilson out there?
I mean, my blood's just boiling thinking about it. You see him take 2 ground balls during spring training, and it's enough for me to just lose my mind. So,
anyways, how does Russell Wilson say no to these opportunities to go play baseball for the New York Yankees?
Yeah,
I got offered to play. I got offered to play right field for the Washington Wild Things. I was like, I'm playing. They're like, yeah, but put me in the game. I literally took reps away from a guy that was trying to make a living.
Yeah, that's not the majors.
That's even worse.
Whoa.
Hey, easy. Okay, just because Russell Wilson gets calls from the Yankees and I get calls from the Washington Wild Things, the Frontier League.
Great organization.
Great organization.
I didn't say it wasn't. I mean, they'd have you back too. Your stats spoke for themselves.
That's right. You can buy that now at the Pat McAfee Show. Yeah, I think so. It's somewhere on the website. I have no idea where it is, but it's a great documentary. People are arguing it's the greatest comedic sports documentary in the history of comedic sports documentaries. Mm-hmm. I was mic'd up the entire time while playing baseball for the first time in my life. Literally, first time I've ever stepped in a batter's box was against a guy who was drafted by the
Yankees, yeah.
Hilarious. It's worth a watch. But anyways, Russell Wilson, it seems as if he might be just like Tim Tebow, where he is everything that you see. Because you can't be this fake all the time. And that's kind of what A.J. Hawk said in one interview. He was like, when I was talking to him, you listen to 40 hours of a guy. Unless they're the best narcissist in the history of narcissists, you pretty much learn everything you need to know about that person. There's not a lot of give that you can have. With Russell Wilson, he seems like he is so consistently this guy that you want to hate. You almost have to respect it at this point. And then whenever you watch him play football, he's become this player that can win a game all by himself, which was the knock on him early. Like, oh, you have the Legion of Boom, you have this, you have that. Russell Wilson, I think, took that to heart. He got paid, got married to Sierra, has Future's kid in his house, and now he's become an incredible football player. He seems to be a great leader, and that Seattle Seahawks team looks like they're going to give the L.A. Rams tonight some problems, especially up there at Century. Is that what it's called? Century Link or something like that? I don't know. I've never played there.
Yeah, I believe so.
It's an insane
the
place.
Link, yep.
I think the Rams are in trouble tonight against the Seahawks, personally. And that's going off of zero research, just personally.
I'll give you some research. Let me tell you why I think they're in trouble. Goff is terrible on the road when they travel. We overall think of him as an average NFL quarterback. At least that's the way I think of him. I don't think he's too great. I don't think he's too low. He started out his career pretty terrible, but he seemed to find a steady rhythm there with McVay, and they kind of turned his career around.
With Todd Gurley, too, also, by the way, being one of the best players in football in the backfield, which helps any quarterback out. But I think he had some success, so you have to give him that. But I don't think anybody's like, you know what? Jared Goff, better than Mahomes. Nobody's
when you look at his home and away stats, they are drastically different. We all know Seattle's a hard place to play, as it is already. But just last year, take a look at this. At home, Goff, 68% completion percentage, 22 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions, QB rating of 116. Okay, pretty good.
Let's talk about that. L.A., not a lot of wind, weather's perfect, and I assume that is a very comfortable place for the Southern California kid, Jared Goff, to play.
Right.
So now go on the road, he is.
On the road, completion percentage drops to 60%, 10 touchdowns to 9 interceptions, and his QB rating drops to 82%.
What do you think that is? I always wonder that, because I think I performed better on the road than I did at home. Because I enjoyed that feeling of like us versus you. Like I enjoyed us going into somebody's house and doing something. And I think that's because I'm naturally a heel. You know, I think I'm naturally deep down a heel. I enjoy that type of environment. I enjoy that stuff. And sometimes home places were the harder on me than anywhere else because they actually knew who I was. So, like, after I got that public intoxication, there was at least 45 to 50 swimming comments at home every single game for the next year or two. So I was almost getting heckled by the home crowd more than the away crowd because the away crowd loved seeing me go on the field. So I think for me personally, I almost enjoyed and thrived at away games. Also, you're in a hotel, you're kind of holed up, you're away from everything. It's literally you traveling into another town, like that horse going into whatchamacallit.
Trojan horse.
That one.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
See, it's kind of like you going into somebody else's house. I enjoyed that naturally as the way I'm built. I like the chirping. I like that operation. But home field advantage is a real thing. Now, is that because the crowd noise affects his cadence, which affects the get off the edge, which gets him a little bit antsy when there's more pressure on him, so he's not as accurate, so those timing routes that Sean McVay can draw up so perfectly aren't as good as they once were because his tackles aren't getting off the ball as fast as they are at home whenever you have a friendly crowd who's quiet on offense, which means tonight is going to be a massive test for him? Or is it just because he's not as comfortable? He doesn't like sleeping in hotel beds that have bad pillows. That's why I travel with my own pillow.
Power move.
Hey,
it's a veteran move.
I used to judge folks hard if they travel with a pillow. Like, hey, nerd, are you seriously walking around with a pillow? Now, I'm not leaving that house without my pillow.
You're that guy.
I'm that guy now. And I'll tell you what, last night, I didn't fall asleep till like 2:30, and I think it's because the only reason why I did fall asleep is because I had my pillow from home because that bed stunk last night. That bed stunk.
It's like sleeping in like the Flintstones house.
It really felt like that. But that is hotels, by the way. You never know what you're getting. At home, you have now granted, home games, you got to stay at a hotel as well in the modern NFL. I guess before my time, guys were allowed to stay at home games.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that I've ever been a part of is home games. You stay in a hotel as well. So you're kind of rolling the dice, but at least you're at the same hotel, every single time. So you kind of get a little rhythm, a routine. Football players are routine-driven animals. Okay, I got this at this, I got this at this, I do this at this, and then this happens. That's kind of how a football schedule is. All right, you got meetings at this, you got lift at this, you got practice at this, you go home at this, you're allowed to nap at this point, you're allowed to do that. On the road, things can change a little bit. You don't know the food, you don't know the bed, you don't know the setup. It can kind of make people uncomfortable if they're a little bit high maintenance, which potentially quarterbacks are. So all those things play into why a home game is a lot better, plus the travel on the legs, everything like that, your body, if you believe in that stuff. I mean, granted, my first couple years in the NFL, we had wings and pizza the night before. That was awesome, and that was some of the best football teams I've ever seen in my entire life, are just housing wings and pizza and ice cream the night before games. And then all these nutritionists got involved, and we got, you got your protein shake. And I'm like, just 2 years ago, I was kicking off the Super Bowl, and I had a cookies and cream I had a cookies and cream sundae. Like, well, studies have proven that if you fuel up the night before, you have more energy tomorrow. I'm like, yeah, what about just like my happiness? Though,
Yeah, that's pretty important.
I feel like if I'm happy eating these wings and pizza and it's cookies and cream, I feel like I might perform better. They're like, well, that's just not what the science says or whatever. I'm like, science can judge my happiness? Like, we don't have enough time for this conversation. I was like, well, I'm about to order some pizza. Am I allowed to order pizza for the rest of you? Do not do that, Pat. Do not be a cancer to this team and order pizza into this room. All right, I won't do it, but we're going to get wings. And we had an equipment manager. We had an equipment manager that would literally, he owned like a bar that had the best wings in all of Indianapolis. His name was Frog. He had a bar called Sully's, and they had the best wings in Indianapolis. It is now currently out of business because I think being an equipment manager could potentially take up a lot of your time.
It's going to be tough.
So owning a bar as well is tough, but their wings were incredible. And there had been a lot of complaints about the new nutritionist policy the night before games, which, by the way, the nutritionist was just trying to make the team better. I understand that. But, I mean, you got a lot of people who have done a lot. Chad Johnson eats McDonald's every day of his life. He's
genetic freak.
He's just a genetic freak. Like, there's some things that people do. So whenever you get the cardboard sandwiches out there and the blah, blah, blah the night before game, it's like, all right, I'm not going to eat this. I'm just going to order room service. It's probably much more terrible than this. He started bringing wings in, right? So this guy started bringing wings in by the dozens. Like, we had dozens of wings set up outside. Might have saved the season. Those wings might have saved the season. That'll never get talked about in the record books, but his lemon pepper wings that he used to bring in potentially saved the team because of our happiness, and that's not what nutritionists can do. And I have no idea how we got to this point. But
Home and road splits. What's the difference?
There
what's
it
it
is.
like playing at home versus what's it like
that
playing
was
on the road?
only home games. Away games, it was all the nutritionists lineup. And you know what? We have no idea. We have no idea what the LA Rams nutritionist is putting out for those boys to eat the night before. Hey, Mad Horse runs faster, but I don't know if it wants to lay its body on the line for you.
Tony Diggs wanted it to be known that Goff is so bad on the road because he can't hear McVay telling him exactly what to do in his helmet before the snap.
Okay, that's interesting to think about because they're allowed to speak into the headset until 15 seconds on the play clock.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams line up quick, and it does seem as if McVay's mouth is covered up all the way up until that 15-second thing, and they're making the change. By the way, if you have McVay, who's this offensive whiz kid genius, I think that's a good weapon to have. But does that type of thing where you're so dependent upon something affect you whenever you can't have that? I think we find that out.
Is it more that, or is it the fact that when Goff was playing so good last year, it was because Gurley was having an MVP type season and he just hasn't gotten the ball this year and hasn't been like that, and so now teams are like, all right, well, if they're not going to be pounding the rock with him, then let's just stop Jared Goff, and it's worked pretty well.
What happened to Gurley? Will anybody ever, like, the truth will come out eventually, I assume?
Schefter was on Get Up this morning saying that he seriously thinks that they're just trying to save him and they're just preserving him
For
so
what,
that he'll
though?
be fresh in December is what he said. That is what Schefter said.
Oh, so then it's going to become the Gurley show in December? But
Yeah, but look at how good that division is right now. The Niners are undefeated. The Seahawks look good. Like, you can't just, like, put him on the shelf for half the season and save him for the back half.
hey, what a hilarious thing, by the way. We're going to coast into the playoffs in the NFL. Just think about how successful Sean McVay has been as a head coach, that's his mindset. Like, the first couple months, we don't need an MVP player to play. We'll just kind of coast. Yeah, we'll have him in the game. But whenever it matters, we'll have him in. What if you're already out of it? What if you get smoked by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home?
Yeah.
And then that puts you in a downward spiral. I have a lot of faith in Sean McVay. I don't think anything that Sean McVay has done has made us believe that Sean McVay won't continue to do a good job for the LA Rams. But you have to question that. Todd Gurley, something had to have happened because they were resting him in the playoffs, too, for the Super Bowl, and then he didn't really get the ball in the Super Bowl, and then now they're resting him for December. It seems like something has happened with Todd Gurley and the LA Rams. He didn't answer questions about it. They've kind of been standoffish about it. Everybody says his knees are bad. He says he's healthy. That's an interesting dynamic over there. All we need is Todd Gurley to do one time what Stephon Diggs did yesterday, and that whole thing is blown up very quickly.
The Rams' offensive line is significantly worse this year, too. They are ranked dead last according to PFF.
Well, when you throw the ball 60-some times a game, you don't really have a chance to let the defensive line know that they don't have to just pin their ears back every single play. Whenever you run the ball, that keeps them honest. That keeps the defensive lineman maybe just a little bit back so he thinks, like, oh, you know what, I might have to plug up two holes here. Whenever you're throwing the ball 60 times a game, they're like, all right, however I can get to the quarterback, I can get to the quarterback. There's no gap discipline. I can go over here if I have to. I can go over there if I have to. I don't have to hold up anything because I know there's zero chance these people are going to run the ball because Todd Gurley and the LA Rams hate each other.
Wow.
FanDuel has Seahawks -1.5. You hammering the Hawks?
Yeah, I think so. I honestly think so. I think that's a safe bet tonight on FanDuel, honestly. I don't know if we'll be able to because it's so close. I'd like to boost those odds, too, on that. That's going to be the fun thing this year. FanDuel is about to be the only app, really, that is online for a lot of states where you can gamble on your phone. You don't have to go to an in-person place. In a lot of the states where they are the online app, massive for our demographic.
Yeah.
And I asked them, I'm like, what all can I do to help my people? You know, and they're like, well, if you want to boost odds, you can do that. I'm like, every night? Like, if you get it in time, we can do that for you. So we're about to make a bunch of money, I think,
Let's
this year
go.
off of FanDuel, and I'm thankful for that. If you're gambling, be smart. If you have a problem, call that number, 1-8-something-something.
1-800 bets off, or I don't think that's it anymore, but you get it.
It's like gambler or something. Be smart. But if you're going to put money on a horse, so you invest in the horse race a little bit more, have to do it through FanDuel and do it with us because we're going to have boosted odds, so we're going to be having better odds than everybody else. FanDuel.com/McAfee. Let's go ahead and get rich this year off of my big brain. I feel good about my bets thus far. I've been pretty hot.
Very close to hitting a big-time parlay last week.
Oh, Jacoby and the Colts. We'll keep it going. 11/20, October 3rd, 2019. We think the show's working. We're not sure. Tweet us, hashtag Pat McAfee Show Live. We'll get some questions on the other side. Also, Stephon Diggs, no show to practice.
crumbling down in Minneapolis. It's just not looking good.
Kirk Cousins is just, he's that gif where the fire is just all around him.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Guys, I'll learn how to throw again. Did he ever know how to throw? Great question. We'll talk about it. You're listening to the Pat McAfee Show.
DAZN and MLB present Change Up, the live rip-around show that changes how you watch the ballgame.
Every night, this is going to be the place to be.
Jump in and out of the best plays as they happen with our team of incredible hosts.
What?
And big-name guests.
Hunter Pence, you've done work. That's right. Rags Electric Factory. Wait, it's time for Bat Flip, boss. We're whipping them around, baby. Whip it, whip it.
Live every night. Only on DAZN.
The Pat McAfee Show here, Thursday, October 3rd, 2019, in beautiful Greenville, North Carolina for the Temple ECU game tonight. Temple Owls are favored by 11.5. Rebuilding ECU team. Should be a great night for football. Just talked about the Rams, Seahawks. Like the Seahawks, -1. We think it's going to potentially be a massive game for old Russell Wilson, who Pete Carroll has said is playing his best football yet. When it's all said and done, will Russell Wilson get his name on this poll that I've tweeted out just to pander humans on the internet? Poll the people on my Twitter account. We have 35,000 votes in. Who's the goatiest GOAT of all time and why, I asked. Tom Brady, Adam Vinatieri, Michael Jordan, or Tiger Woods?
I tried to get a hockey player. You weren't having it.
Well,
Just wanted to be known.
Well, everybody said that Wayne Gretzky needs to go in there. I'm a Lemieux guy.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm just going to leave them both off the list. So take a hike. I think the one athlete that I did miss on here is Serena Williams.
Oh, that's a good one.
Fair.
I think Serena Williams is the one that I missed here, honestly. A lot of people say Gretzky, Gretzky.
Yeah, I think you could argue Serena/Federer.
Serena, Federer.
Yeah.
Mhm.
A lot of people said Peyton Manning should be on there, but I think even football players would agree that Tom Brady's greatest of all time, strictly because he's won 6 Super Bowls. I mean, you got to show the respect to that. Even though Peyton Manning, incredible football player. In the poll of 35,000 people, in the lead, Michael Jordan with 34% of the vote. The goatiest GOAT of all the GOATs.
Deserved.
Then you have Tom Brady with 26%, Adam Vinatieri with 20%, and Tiger Woods with 21%, which is intriguing to me that 35,000 people had Tiger Woods in third there when Tiger Woods did it all by himself. Tiger Woods completely saved a game, some would say. Tiger Woods had to go out there all by himself. Now, granted, off the course, he was not all by himself.
A lot of help off the field.
A lot of help off the course. Rest in peace to his dad. Incredibly magical moments between he and his father throughout the years of golf. Rest in peace to his previous bachelor career that he had while married. But what he did for golf is insane. And people say that other guy who has more championships than him,
Jack.
Oh, Jack, yeah.
Jack, is the GOAT of golf. Cool. You're just an old white person. That's who you are if you're saying that. Everybody knows that Tiger Woods, if he and Jack were to play at their peaks, Tiger Woods probably would have won by 15 to 20 strokes over him. And that's just why I feel the way I do. And you can take that how you want. I don't care. I was a big-time Tiger Woods guy. I loved everything about him. And then I heard what he was doing. I'm feeling like, not a great guy. Let's just go ahead and keep that away. Let's just focus strictly on how he golfs and he attacks the game. He changed golf completely. He was the first person with a true athlete mentality in the game of golf. A lot of golfers, whenever they lose, they shake hands. Oh, my God. It just wasn't in the cards today. Tiger Woods would get upset. Like, Tiger Woods is the first competitive human, I think, that got onto a course that wanted to annihilate every other golfer that was on the course. And for me, that's the type of stuff I love. Like, I enjoy people that just want to go in there and step on throats. Like, I enjoy that in the competitive, not in real life, but whenever it comes to competition and the globe and sphere of sports, I enjoy the people that are competitive, that want to go out there and get a win in the right fashion, not cheating, utilizing the game, and just wanting to win. I like that. I thought Tiger Woods did that for golf when nobody else would. Phil Mickelson, one of the greatest number 2s of all time. I think the only better number 2 is probably Adidas.
Yeah, they're up there. That's good.
Adidas Powerade Phil Mickelson.
Strong.
Very true.
Those are strong twos.
The 3 number 2s probably across the whole thing. Now, granted, Adidas has made a big play, but they'll never catch Phil Knight.
Nope.
Never, ever catch
Nope.
Phil Knight. I think Adidas, I wear Adidas shoes every once in a while. I wear Nike much more often, but Adidas has been a consummate number 2. Powerade has forever been the number 2. And Phil Mickelson, any other time period of golf, would be arguing if he's the best of golf, but he just had to run into a red polo wearing, trail blazing, golf ball hitting, Denny's waitress splitting,
Oh.
Golf cart driving,
big ball thriving,
Cadillac crashing.
all these things. Tiger Woods. So I'm surprised that Tiger Woods was not near the top there. Michael Jordan being number 1, very interesting to me, because a lot of people argue that LeBron James.
Oh, come on.
Zito is strictly saying that because he's from Chicago and he feels obligated to say that.
And I think people are voting for Michael because they hate LeBron James. I think it's out of spite of LeBron.
Well, and also I would argue that LeBron potentially showed up to a game drunk last year and took a year off in L.A. because he knew the team was crumbling around him. And he had been to the playoffs for like 45 straight years. And he finally had a season where it was like a vacation year. I'm in L.A. I'm going to launch 45 shows. I'm just going to hang out this year until they decide to put a good team around me. Now they seem to have a good team, so he's going to be back. But LeBron James, when it's all said and done, it's going to be hard not to say, like, hey, this guy, really good at basketball. And then people say, well, Michael Jordan played in a time where it wasn't easy to play basketball. It's like, oh, let's assume that the guy that's 6'8", 275 pounds, is faster than everybody, can jump higher than everybody, would have also done well back in the day. But let's not rule out the fact that Michael Jordan would have done well today as well. So that is a tough conversation. I like the trend towards the modern person being better than the older person because of science and techniques and practices and all that stuff. But you can't argue Michael Jordan isn't the guy. I mean, I'm wearing his shoes literally right now. So, I mean, that's a tough thing to talk about.
Also, to Foxy's point, let's not discredit votes that are made out of spite. A lot of great things happen because of spite.
Go on.
I mean, just look at anything that's ever been accomplished in America.
Sprite.
All out of spite. For the England, the Queen, not Sprite, Zito, though a great soft drink, was definitely not accomplished out of
Refreshing.
spite.
Sprite.
Steve Jobs, the iPhone, hated Bill Gates, hated Windows, they stole his idea, all out of spite.
Some would argue that it wasn't Steve Jobs' idea. He just kind of said, I'd make it better.
I would argue that, but for the purpose of this, you get it.
I think I should have put Steve Jobs on that.
Oh, yeah.
I think I should have put Steve Jobs in that goatee just to see that poll was strictly to pander. That poll was strictly to pander right there. That was strictly to get people to be like, I can't believe you didn't put Gretzky on here. I can't believe you didn't put Peyton Manning on. Tom Brady, Belichick, maybe.
Hey, guess what? It worked. There's about 500 responses. So
that's what I'm saying. I mean, every once in a while, some things are just for me. You know what I mean? Yeah. Wait until I put up the Jay-Z, Lil Wayne, Eminem debate. I'm gonna do that tomorrow, probably.
Boy.
These are the greatest. They just never stop.
I also think this poll could read who's the most clutch athlete of all time, and you keep the same 4 people in there. MJ, Tom Brady, Adam Vinatieri, Tiger Woods.
That's a hard one.
I'd say Adam Vinatieri is the most clutch player.
I think so, too.
Most clutch sports person in history.
Michael Jordan,
See, and
I don't know.
I even think for this, by the way you phrase the question, I think it's Vinatieri, because I think the difference between him and who you would consider the next greatest GOAT or whatever, like his adversary, is much wider than any of these other guys.
I would agree with that, and it's also less conversated about, so I put him in there strictly so that would happen.
For sure.
But Justin Tucker's on his way, obviously.
Yeah.
I think everybody knows Justin Tucker's on his way. But to become the GOAT in kicking, you have to be put in situations, Super Bowl situations. You have to be put in game-winning situations on primetime television, which he has been able to do. Hit like a 58-yarder or something on Monday Night Football. But he has to win a Super Bowl or two. Not even game winners, because that is all situational, but he has to have those big moments. Justin Tucker's definitely on his way. I think that is arguable. But, yeah, you're right. Adam Vinatieri is just a known GOAT there. There isn't a debate. There's no people going, oh, Peyton Manning should be in there. There isn't people talking about, oh, well, what about Jack? There isn't people like, LeBron's going to do it. Right now, it's just Adam Vinatieri. Yep, standard. Adam Vinatieri is the GOAT. He is the standard. He is the guy. That's why as soon as he has a little bit of struggle, which he hasn't had a lot of it his entire career, people are like, oh, he's got to retire. He's lost it. It's like, Vinatieri, I don't think you know the man. He's not just going to walk away wherever he's bad, because he's not going out on that note. Adam Vinatieri is going to go bounce into retirement. He's not going to have a clue what to do with himself. He might be 55, might be like Paterno. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think Vinatieri is going to kick forever. That Hall of Fame speech might come after I die for Vinatieri, because he has to wait, 5 years after he retires?
Yep. Although, they sometimes waive those things for true GOATs.
Do they really?
Gretzky and Lemieux got it waived.
Really?
Yep.
Really?
Inducted right away.
Yeah, but the NHL is a terrible league. We've already talked about that.
Good playoffs, though.
The NHL is great playoffs.
Great playoffs.
Great sport. Terrible league. All right, let's get to a break. I got to run to a bathroom. We're going to wrap up this second hour here in a beautiful fashion. Has anybody asked any questions on the internet, Zito?
We have a lot of questions, yes.
Okay, Zito will find 1 or 2 good ones. You make it on the show, we'll send you some merch. CFO Phil will do that, who was accused of running a scam yesterday. Congrats to CFO Phil Maine's Plum Mustangs hockey team, by the way. Undefeated on the season.
Hey. Let's go Plum.
They're a terrible batch of hockey players, but he's really rallied them up. That's good news. Actually, I don't know. Last year they were very bad. I was trying to talk him into quitting coaching this team, and he refused. He said he thinks they're going to be better this year than they were last year. They were awful last year.
I was going to play goalie.
Goldberg! We'll be back on the other side. You listen to the Pat McAfee Show.
Anthony Joshua. Oh, yes, right hand by Joshua. Comes back with a hook. Povetkin now on his heels. He's hurt. Joshua trying everything, a big right hand. And this is over.
A landmark 11-fight, $365 million deal, making Canelo the highest-paid athlete on the planet.
Callum Smith has claimed the inaugural Muhammad Ali trophy. That is what is on the line. Here we go. Ryan Garcia. Can Rocky survive? And there's not much he can do. That was a headshot down the body. That's
Here today to discuss the new partnership between Gennady Golovkin and DAZN. Golovkin's going to spend the rest of his career fighting here on DAZN.
That's right, to New Beginnings. Welcome to Change Up alongside Scott Rogowski. I'm Adnan Burke. Every night, this is going to be the place to be.
I always wanted to know, like, as a boxer, how is it when you step into the ring, your name and career and everything you work for is on the line?
The fighting pride of all Ireland, KT Taylor.
All the suits, all the shoes, all this pretty glitz and glamour, at the end of the day, it don't mean nothing. We got to step in that ring.
You see the size difference. Jacobs is the taller man, but there is just thudding power from Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez, just an outstanding performance in the title defense.
Rampage even the series. Mamma mia! And down goes Rojas. Patricio Benbo has done it.
That's an elbow that's come in there, you know. What a round. And he's wobbled again. He's got down after the bell.
Big drama show continues, ladies and gentlemen. Triple G sends a message to Canelo. Here we go, round number one, heavyweight championship of the world. Ruiz comes to fire back, and Joshua's hurt. Joshua is hurt, he's staggered, and he goes down again. He says that's it. Andy Ruiz is the heavyweight champion. Wow, wow, wow.
Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show here, October 3rd, 2019. It's a beautiful day to be alive. I had a moment there in the first hour.
You were due. It's not your fault.
I mean, honestly,
well overdue.
I had a moment there. I'm happy we got through it. I had to let it out, and then now we're here in the second hour, and I think we've had a pretty good show here thus far.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think we have. I forgot about some of the stories I haven't told in a long time. It feels good to reminisce about old Adam Vinatieri being the GOAT. It feels good. Oh, you know, we haven't talked about Stephon Diggs.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Stephon Diggs is a G, dude. I don't know how you – and this is a real thing. He's a guy who loves taking his helmet off as soon as he scores a touchdown. See you later, coming out. Hey, he's done it twice now, right? After the Minneapolis Miracle, and then in Green Bay he did it. He just took it off, knowing it was going to be a penalty. Kicker's going to have to kick a 30.
He missed the extra point.
Yeah, kicker's going to have to kick a 50-yard extra point. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Back him up. I just scored a touchdown. Let me get my face out there. I respect it. Hey, everybody talks about how the helmets and the face mask are a problem for NFL players and branding. You see a lot more guys taking their helmets off nowadays, which I think was an actual decision made by a lot of people. Like, hey, primetime games, take television or take the helmet off a little bit. Let's get a little branding. Because it seems to be happening on a much more regular basis. Timeout happens, people take their helmets off. Odell Beckham has that helmet off more than he has it on, which, by the way, got to respect the hustle, I guess.
Let him take it off. I never understood that rule in the first place.
Yeah, why did if the touchdown already happened?
It's taunting, is the way that the league considers it.
To become less violent?
Apparently.
To take off your armor is more
They
taunting.
literally put that rule in place after Brett Favre throws that touchdown pass in that Super Bowl and runs down the field taking his helmet off. After the next year, I think they implemented it.
I'm on your side here. Now, I never really thought, and normally that's something I'm good at, is like thinking about why this, why that. Instead of saying Stephon Diggs is screwing his kicker, either on the kickoff or the extra point by doing that, let's go deeper. Why aren't you allowed to take off your helmet? Imagine if the whole team, though, as soon as the touchdown happens, just pops that thing off. Offensive linemen are like, yep, we're gone. And it's just like a scoop fest of all the helmets afterwards. That's probably, I mean, a bit dramatic. But it is real, like, because it's, I don't know, man. I guess the standard is you jog on and off football field, and when you're on that field, you keep your chin strap strapped up. That's what you do. I can understand that. I hated whenever they decided not to let people celebrate, whenever they were trying to make it just a uniform. We don't want anybody to have any personality. We want to be able to pick and place our players. We don't want anybody, any individuality. If your socks aren't pulled all the way up, you'll be fined $30,000. If you wear different color shoes, you'll be fined. If your jersey's just a little bit off, you'll be fined. That was the NFL trying to make everything uniform so that when a player leaves, their team can still thrive. It's just replace the player, no big deal. We found out the personalities are actually good for the game. That's weird. That's crazy.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought that that's a good thing? Get rid of that rule. The helmet off thing, though, is an interesting thing because it is celebration rule, and they kind of got back off the celebration rules. I don't know. That's interesting. But Stephon Diggs, one of the biggest moments in NFL history, that Minneapolis Miracle. That catch. That run. That tutter. The internet breaking, him throwing his helmet. Then they go on to lose in Philadelphia. But nobody remembers that. People just remember that big moment. That'll live forever in the NFL archives. We still can't even put a GIF of it up on YouTube. The NFL strikes it down immediately. If you have me doing my little walk after the fake punt completion, the NFL has no problem with that. Go ahead and do all you got to do. If it's anything else that happens, it's okay. But there's a couple plays that the NFL is like, you are not allowed to show it unless you are paying us. The Andrew Luck Superman dive play, the infamous tuck rule, Vinatieri kick not allowed, the Minneapolis Miracle not allowed to show it. It's one of the biggest plays in NFL history. Stephon Diggs will forever be linked to it, as will Case Keenum, who's going to get replaced by Dwayne Haskins eventually. I guess he already is. Stephon Diggs, just days after Adam Thielen expressed some real emotion about how the Minnesota Vikings offense is performing, in a post-game candid interview, who we've said on numerous occasions, Adam Thielen, one of the most competitive humans we've ever been around. You have to be to get to the NFL from where he got to the NFL. To want to drive yourself, to literally work out by yourself, get better by yourself, bet on yourself, pay to get into a workout for the regional combine, ain't nobody making it. You have to have a drive and a competitiveness unbeknownst to mankind. Adam Thielen has that. So when their offense struggles and he doesn't get the ball a lot, and after all they've been through and after the expectations, he expressed a little bit of an emotion after the game about, hey, we can't just rely on Dalvin Cook, who has had an incredible year thus far, to run for 175 yards and only win that way. We got to complete some passes. Everybody has seen the way Kirk Cousins has played. They started burying Kirk Cousins for that situation. They're like, well, that's a shot at Kirk Cousins, obviously. Adam Thielen comes out and says, no, but it's in a broad sense. We're talking about football. Mike Zimmer then says he's got to pull the trigger more. He's got to do this. He's got to do that. We think he's a good quarterback, but he's got to do a little bit of this. Everybody is acknowledging potentially that Kirk Cousins is struggling. Hadn't heard a thing from Stephon Diggs. Not a single word was said by Stephon Diggs. Then Stephon Diggs let his actions do the talking for him. Just didn't show up to work. Middle of the week, Wednesday, by the way, is your first real day for the next upcoming week. It's when your team meeting is. It's whenever they set up the keys to victory. It's your first day installing plays that you want to do against your next opponent. It is the day that you need to really, it's the first day of the week, basically. It's Monday in an NFL season. He doesn't show up. Just says, nope, not coming. So what's a non-injury reason he missed practice? I assume he's going to be fined for this. He might be confused by it, like Antonio Brown. Whenever you miss practice, you get fined. That's just the way it goes. But I think this is speaking very loudly, by the way. Then it started rumoring that Stephon Diggs once traded, and we all know how that has been playing out with players nowadays. If they want traded, normally they're going to get out, unless you're Jalen Ramsey or potentially Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs, without saying anything, has maybe made the biggest impact on this story about Kirk Cousins out of anybody else. Adam Thielen had an entire press conference. Mike Zimmer had an entire press conference. Kirk Cousins went on the Kirk Cousins show to apologize to everybody, the state of Minnesota, and Adam Thielen for not getting them the ball. And then Stephon Diggs, after listening to the Kirk Cousins show, just decides not to show up. He says, you know what? Oh. Do you think it's because he called Adam Thielen the best player in the game?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That just hit me right there.
Yeah, I just put that together as well. And I think that's 1,000% the reason. Like, all right, well, screw this guy then. I might as well pile on while I can. He stinks. Everyone knows he stinks. And he's not throwing me the ball, and he's not giving me any praise either.
The Kirk Cousins show on the Minnesota Vikings website is what initially was the straw that broke the camel's back in Stephon Diggs' mind and said, I can't take it anymore. Oh, my God, that's definitely it. That's definitely what it is. Because he said Adam Thielen is not only the best guy or whatever, the best wide receiver, he's one of the best players in the entire game. I have to be able to get him the ball more. And his little co-host was like, oh, thanks for saying that. Didn't even know that Stephon Diggs was just sitting at home, tapping his leg, listening to this. That's what he was saying. This guy thinks he just can't complete a pass to Thielen. What about me? I got mitts that are the size of this box truck, and he can't hit me for crap. That's definitely what happened.
I think so.
Oh, we need another Kirk Cousins show. There needs to be another Kirk Cousins show immediately. They need to drop another episode, and he's going to have to apologize to Stephon Diggs now for saying that Adam Thielen, who he originally thought was mad at him, is upset about blah, blah, blah. Now Stephon Diggs is upset with him, blah, blah, blah. Wait until he says something about that, and Dalvin Cook's like, wait a minute. Are you going to say anything about me being our only offensive threat for the first? What about big country Kyle Rudolph? What if Kyle Rudolph doesn't get any praise? This Minnesota Vikings team might as well not even show up this weekend. Oh, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. Imagine if Chuck Pagano went out there, though. Gosh. And he was like, gosh, our special teams are incredible. Matt Overton, really good snapping the ball. Adam Vinatieri, obviously great. Just love everything our special teams are doing. I'd be listening to that and be like, what did you just say? That's what Stephon Diggs is doing.
Yeah.
So can you blame him, I guess, if you're Stephon Diggs, who has one of the most notable plays in NFL history? You got paid. You're a big-time wide receiver. You would like to be treated with more respect, I assume, nationally for his talent and ability. And now your quarterback, who has stunk, who a lot of people are calling
a stooge and a sellout.
is piping off on his own show, talking about how one of the other wide receivers, who you're probably friends with, by the way, Thielen and Diggs are probably friends with each other. You have to be around each other a lot. It just goes on this glowing rant and refuses to acknowledge that there's another guy on the field like Stephon Diggs. Kirk Cousins just can't win right now. He can't complete a pass. He can't apologize properly. And the guy is making $84 million guaranteed, and everybody's like, what are we doing with this Michigan State guy here? The world is burning down around the Vikings organization. That is definitely what happened.
Yeah, I think so.
Would you trade him?
Can't win with him. Who, Kirk?
No, Diggs. If you're the organization, do you go, hey, well, we got two highly paid wide receivers, but we can't throw to either of them. We're a run-based offense.
But then this is just like the Steelers where you're banking on Big Ben. So if you trade Diggs out of there, then you're saying this is Kirk Cousins' team. We're on Kirk Cousins' side. Then once you make your bed, you kind of got to sleep in it. I don't know if Tommy John's going to come up and bite Kirk in that, but he might not be able to complete a pass forever. That's definitely the case, too. Stephon Diggs is not happy that he was not even mentioned in that Adam Thielen apology.
I mean, it's tough, but we are reaching the point of mutiny in the Vikings locker room where Kirk Cousins, they may hold him down and beat the hell out of him with batteries and socks the next time he comes into the locker room. Knock a little sense into him, maybe.
Ty's a throwback. But that is a weird locker room. That is a locker room that I would like to be in. That is a locker room where I think I would do well in, by the way. Where as soon as Kirk Cousins walks in, or as soon as Diggs walks in after the Kirk Cousins show, and you're like, Diggs, you all right? And I'd probably say, you heard Kirk Cousins show? And he'd be like, yeah, man, dude didn't even say anything about me. I'm like, all right, let me put a pin in that. And then as soon as we get in the team meeting room, I'd be like, hey, Zim, your Diggs not even getting mentioned on Kirk Cousins' show? Just lay it all out there. Just lay it all out there. Because then when you do that, everybody has a chance to address everything, either in the locker room, in a team meeting room, in the cafeteria. You have to have somebody on your team that is liked enough by enough people and also has the gut sack enough to be like, hey, Kirk, I mean, you kind of threw Diggs under the bus there. You basically said that he's nothing. Do you feel that way? Oh, well, I didn't mean to do that. I was like, I think you should maybe go talk to him. That's something you should do. That is a real locker room guy's job, by the way. That is a real role on the team to smooth things over. If guys are fighting in practice, let's call it out. Let's smooth this over. We're all in this thing together. Anthony Gonzales said in the first hour, an NFL locker room is a beautiful place. It is a sacred place. You got people from all different walks of life. Stephon Diggs and Kirk Cousins, I would assume, have two very different backgrounds, but at the end of the day, they have to come together for a common goal. It's much like America. And if Kirk Cousins and Stephon Diggs are on outs right now, somebody has to figure out a way to bring them back together. And that's where you hope you have a good locker room guy in there that can do it. But if somebody refuses to show up in the locker room, is that a lost cause? Do you trade Diggs and say this is Kirk Cousins' team? Or do you go, oh, this guy stinks at football. This guy's really good at football. Do we just deal with this awkward situation for the next few weeks until we let Kirk Cousins get the hell out of town, pay him like he's an NFL coach for the next 5 years, which is what we have to do, and turn over a new leaf? I don't know.
Well, and I don't think you can trade him, right? Because then if he goes somewhere and just lights it up, then that's basically Diggs. That's basically affirming that, like, hey, Kirk Cousins is a stooge. He stinks. That's basically what that says if he goes somewhere else and just lights it up.
I feel like we've really turned against Kirk Cousins on this show.
Hey, what if Kirk Cousins knows his days are limited in the league? He's like, I'm going to start a podcast, and I'm going to drive the downloads because no one knew Kirk Cousins had a podcast until this week. And he's preparing for life after the NFL.
That'd be a big-time Michigan State move, wouldn't it? Just being a selfish, looking out for yourself.
The biggest.
Sounds about right.
For those that are listening that don't know, we literally go after Michigan State strictly because Foxy's from there, and he's super proud. And as soon as he joined our squad, the whole thing happened with the U.S. Gymnastics and Michigan State, deep tie in there.
Yeah.
So anytime Michigan State...
Despicable thing.
Terrible.
Despicable.
Disgusting.
Absolutely.
Worst thing of all time, potentially, people are saying, straight out of Michigan State.
I would agree with that.
But... Michigan State's greatest export, Evan Fox, is part of our team, so we have to hammer it home.
That's very nice of you.
Oh, so you believe it?
I mean, I would never say it, but you just said it.
People are saying.
Yeah, exactly. People are saying.
You accepted it.
Very.
All I said was very nice. That's a very nice compliment.
Oh, so it was a compliment. It wasn't like a lie. It wasn't a fabrication. It was something that is the truth that was glowingly of you?
I have to ask, was it a lie? Are you lying right now? Were you lying when you said that I was the greatest thing to come out of Michigan?
Fox, so now you're saying.
Fox, let me teach you something about humility here. When someone says something like that to you, you say, I don't know about that. That sounds a little generous.
All I said was very nice of him.
Anyways, I mean, you might be, to be honest.
Yeah, who knows?
Drew Stanton. Drew Stanton is that dude. I got a chance to hang around him. He's probably awesome. He's like Baker Mayfield's quarterback coach right now, I think, in Cleveland. Now, granted, they got a big test on Monday night, I guess, against the Niners to see if the undefeated Niners are the truth or if the Browns are real. Primetime game. Let's assume the Browns are going to show up. But this whole Viking situation is madness to me. It is absolute madness to me because this is an organization who just 2 weeks ago seemed to have it all together, and now it's just like boom, 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 boom. We hate each other. This quarterback sucks. Let's get out of here.
A lot of people picking them to win the division and make a deep run into the playoffs before the season started.
And that is the owner of the Green Bay Packers, Ty Schmidt, saying, what are they talking about? The Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers still exist.
Yeah, tails in the tape. I mean, just watch Kirk Cousins play. That's really all there is to it.
Well, not only just watch Kirk Cousins play, but the type of guy he is, super nice guy and all that stuff, supposedly. I mean, he's throwing his teammates under the bus, I guess, publicly, like Ben Roethlisberger. But whenever this type of stuff starts happening, like, do you shell up or do you play better? Are you able to lock in and not worry about all the drama that's happening out, or does it affect you? I would assume, I know very little about Kirk Cousins, but do you like that and stuff like that? Everything that happens outside of the room affects Kirk Cousins, and I'll be intrigued to hear if that's the case.
As a complete outsider, trade Diggs, load up on picks, draft a quarterback next year, get rid of Kirk.
As a complete outsider, I can't wait to watch him burn to the ground. I love Adam Thielen. I like Diggs, but Kirk Cousins is not the guy. We're so thankful you chose to listen to us today. You're the absolute greatest. This has been the Pat McAfee Show.